The space around Kepler 442 was quiet. Too quiet for Admiral Vextar Zeal's liking. He stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the viewing screen with growing interest. 5 small ships floated in the distance. They looked harmless enough. Commander Kurth, what do our sensors tell us about these vessels? Admiral Zul asked his second-in-command. Commander Kurth Newell looked at his datapad and frowned. They appear to be exploration ships, Admiral. Basic. Shields, simple weapons, chemical propulsion systems. Nothing that should concern our fleet. Admiral Zal smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The Zarathian Empire had conquered 12 different species across 3 star systems. These humans would make number 13. How many ships do they have? 5. Ships total, sir. Our fleet has 27 warships. The odds are clearly in our favor. The Admiral nodded. This would be easy. Too easy, perhaps, but the Empire needed new territories and new slaves. These humans had chosen the wrong system to explore. Open a communication channel to their lead ship, Admiral Zeal ordered. On the human ship Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair. He was a calm man with graying hair and steady eyes. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. The bridge looked simple and clean, nothing like the powerful warships of Earth's true fleet. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship, said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park, the ship's tactical officer. She was young but smart, with dark hair tied back in a neat ponytail. Put it on screen, Lisa, Captain Morrison sighed. The viewing screen flickered, and a large alien face appeared. Admiral Zal had blue-gray skin, yellow eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He wore a military uniform covered in medals and decorations. I am Admiral Vextar Zal of the Zarathian Galactic Empire, the alien said through the universal translator. His voice was deep and threatening. You have entered Imperial space without permission. This is a crime punishable by death or slavery. Captain Morrison remained calm. He had expected this. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We mean no harm to your empire. Admiral Zal laughed, a harsh sound that made the bridge crew uncomfortable. Peaceful? How amusing. Your species is unknown to us, which means you are weak and primitive. I will give you one chance to surrender. What are your terms? Captain Morrison asked, though he already knew what the answer would be. Complete surrender of all 5 ships and their crews. You will turn over all your technology and knowledge to the Empire. Your people will serve as workers in our factories and mines. Those who resist will be executed. Captain Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew showed no fear, only quiet confidence. They had trained for this moment for years. That's quite an offer, Admiral, Captain Morrison said politely. However, I'll need to discuss this with my fellow captains before giving you an answer. Admiral Zal's eyes narrowed. You dare to negotiate with the Zarathian Empire? Very well. You have 30 minutes to decide. After that, we will destroy your ships and take what we want from the wreckage. The transmission ended, and the alien face disappeared from the screen. Well, that went about as expected, said Chief Engineer Paul Anderson from his station. He was a stocky man with kind eyes and steady hands. Should I begin charging thee? Real weapon systems? Not yet, Paul, Captain Morrison said. Let's stick to the plan. Lisa, open a secure channel to the other captains. 4 faces appeared on smaller screens around the bridge. Captain Ben Hayes of the Constitution looked serious and ready. Captain Amy Foster of the Yorktown seemed relaxed, almost bored. Captain Ryan Cooper of the Intrepid was checking something on his tablet. Captain Nina Torres of the Defiance was smiling slightly. Everyone heard that conversation, I assume? Captain Morrison asked. Hard to miss, Captain Hayes replied. Standard Empire behavior. Demand surrender, threaten destruction, claim everything for themselves. The question is, are we ready to drop the act? Captain Foster asked. My crew is getting tired of pretending to be helpless scientists. Captain Morrison nodded. Our long-range sensors show they have exactly the fleet composition we expected. 27 ships, all using standard Zarathian technology. Nothing we haven't seen before. My engineering team has been monitoring their communications, Captain Cooper added. They're using basic encryption. We've been reading their messages for the past hour. Captain Torres leaned forward. They're planning to disable our engines first, then board our ships. Very predictable. Any signs they suspect what we really are? Captain Morrison asked. None at all, Captain Hayes said. Their sensors are showing them exactly what we want them to see. 5 harmless exploration ships with basic defenses. Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh, the Liberty's weapons officer, looked up from his station. Captain, the fake weapon signatures are holding steady. They think our main guns are simple plasma cannons. Good work, Steve, Captain Morrison said. How much time do we have left on their deadline? 22 minutes, sir, Communications Officer Lieutenant Susan Clark replied. She was monitoring all the alien communications channels. Plenty of time, Captain Morrison said. Are all ships ready for the reveal? Each captain nodded in turn. They had practiced this scenario dozens of times in simulations. The first contact with an aggressive alien empire was always dangerous, but humanity had prepared well. Remember, everyone, Captain Morrison said seriously, we're not here to start a war. We're here to prevent one. These Zarathians need to understand humanity is not easy prey. What if they don't listen? Captain Torres asked. Then we'll have to be more convincing, Captain Morrison replied. But let's hope it doesn't come. To that double quotes Dr. Helen Martinez, the fleet's diplomatic advisor, spoke up from her station. Captain, I've been studying their body language and speech patterns. This Admiral Zal is typical of Zarathian military leaders. Aggressive, proud, but not stupid. If we show him the truth about our capabilities, he might be reasonable. That's what we're counting on, Helen, Captain Morrison said. All right, everyone, take your positions. In 20 minutes, the Zarathian Empire is going to learn something new about humanity. The 5 ships floated quietly in space, looking harmless and defenseless, but appearances could be deceiving. Very deceiving indeed. The secure communication channel between the 5 human ships buzzed with quiet activity. Captain Morrison looked at the faces of his fellow captains on the smaller screens. Each one commanded a ship that looked like a simple exploration vessel. From the outside, the truth was very different. Status report from each ship, Captain Morrison said calmly. Ben, how's the Constitution? Captain Ben Hayes checked his displays. All systems green, Jake. The fake sensor readings are working perfectly. They think we have basic deflector shields and maybe a few small plasma guns. Amy, what about Yorktown? Morrison asked. Captain Amy Foster smiled. My crew loves this game of pretend. The aliens have no idea we're carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. The nanite warheads are ready for deployment. Captain Ryan Cooper of the Intrepid looked up from his tablet. The gravity manipulation systems are online and ready. I can create space-time distortions on command. The Zarathians have never seen anything like it. Captain Ninia Torres of the Defiance stretched in her command chair. The temporal displacement. Field is charged and stable. We can phase out of normal space-time whenever needed. Their sensors won't even know where we went. Captain Morrison nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. Paul, what's the status of our stealth systems? Chief Engineer. Paul Anderson looked up from his console. The holographic projectors are working perfectly, Captain. To their sensors, we look like we have old-style chemical rocket engines and basic power systems. They can't see our real fusion reactors or quantum drives. The deception has been 3 years in the making, said Dr. Helen Martinez, the diplomatic advisor. Ever since we started monitoring Zarathian communications, we knew this day would come. They follow the same pattern with every new species they meet. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park pulled up a tactical display. Their fleet is positioned exactly as our intelligence predicted. The flagship in the center, heavy cruisers forming the main battle line, and smaller ships trying to surround us. They think we're trapped, Captain Morrison observed. Classic Zarathian tactics. Surround the enemy, demand surrender, then destroy them if they refuse. Meanwhile, on the Zarathian flagship Eternal Dominion, Admiral Vextar Zol was growing. Impatient. He paced back and forth on his bridge, his heavy boots making loud sounds on the metal floor. How much time is left? He demanded. 15 minutes until the deadline, Admiral, replied his tactical officer. Commander Kurf Null was studying the human ships through the long-range sensors. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what it was. Admiral, may I suggest? We scan them more carefully? There's something odd about their energy signatures. Odd how? Admiral Zoll stopped pacing and looked at his second in command. I'm not sure, sir. The readings are too clean, too simple. Most primitive species have messy, inefficient power systems. These humans seem almost too basic. Admiral Zoll waved his hand dismissively. You're thinking too much, Kurth. Sometimes primitive means primitive. Look at their ships. Small, boxy, ugly. They look like cargo haulers, not warships. Commander Kurth nodded, but he still felt uneasy. In his many years of service, he had learned to trust his instincts. Something about these humans didn't feel. Right back on the Liberty, the crew continued their preparations. Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh was running final checks on the real weapon systems. The Zarathians thought the human ships carried simple plasma cannons. They had no idea about the particle beam arrays, quantum torpedo launchers, and exotic matter projectors hidden beneath the fake hull plating. All weapon systems show ready, Steve reported quietly. The Zarathians are in for quite a surprise. Communications. Officer Lieutenant Susan Clark was monitoring all the alien channels. Captain, I'm picking up increased chatter from their fleet. They're getting excited about the coming battle. What are they saying? Captain Morrison asked. The usual things, sir. Betting on how quickly they can destroy us. Arguing about who gets to board our ships first. Discussing what kind of slaves we'll make. Captain Morrison's jaw tightened slightly. The Zarathians had enslaved millions of beings across their empire. Today, that would change. Helen, remind me again why we chose this approach instead of showing up with an obvious battle fleet? Dr. Martinez adjusted her glasses. Because, Captain, aggressive species like the Zarathians only understand strength when it's demonstrated, not threatened. If we had arrived with obvious warships, they would have either run away or brought their entire fleet. This way, we can show them exactly what humanity is capable of while controlling the situation. Plus, added Captain Foster from the Yorktown, this is much more fun. I love the look on their faces when they realize they've been fooled. Captain Torres laughed from the defiance. Amy, you have a twisted sense of humor, but I agree. There's something satisfying about outwitting bullies. The minutes ticked by slowly. The Zarathian fleet maintained its positions, confident in their overwhelming advantage. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their boarding parties were prepared. This would be another easy victory for the Empire. On the Liberty, Captain Morrison made one final check with his crew. Everyone ready? Around the bridge, heads nodded. These men and women had trained for years for this moment. They were the best Earth had to offer, and they were about to prove it. "Jake," Captain Hayes called from the Constitution. "My sensors show the Zarathians are getting nervous. Their formation is tightening up. They want to make sure we can't escape," Captain Cooper observed from the Intrepid. Not that these fake engines could outrun them anyway. Captain Morrison looked at the chronometer. 5 minutes left on their deadline. "Final systems check, everyone. All ships report ready," came the replies from his fellow captains. "Stealth systems holding steady," Paul Anderson reported. "Weapon systems armed and ready," Steve Walsh confirmed. "Communications clear on all channels," Susan Clark added. "Diplomatic protocols prepared," Dr. Martinez said. "Tactical analysis complete," Lisa Park finished. Admiral Zool's voice suddenly boomed over the communication system. "Human ships, you have 2 minutes remaining. What is your decision?" Captain Morrison stood up from his command chair. This was the moment everything changed. "Admiral Zoll, we appreciate your generous offer, but we must respectfully decline." There was a moment of stunned silence from the Zarathian flagship. "You refuse?" Admiral Zoll's voice was filled with disbelief. "You dare refuse the Zarathian?" "Empire, we prefer to handle our affairs diplomatically," Captain Morrison replied calmly. "Perhaps we could discuss a peaceful solution that benefits both our species." The alien admiral's laughter was harsh and mocking. "Peaceful solution? You are 5 small ships facing 27 warships of the Empire. You have no weapons that can threaten us, no shields that can protect you, and no speed that can save you. What possible reason do you have to refuse?" Captain Morrison smiled, though the alien couldn't see it. "Admiral, I think you might be surprised by what humanity can do when we put our minds to it. Your time is up, human. Prepare to be destroyed." The communication channel closed with a sharp click. Captain Morrison looked around his bridge one last time. His crew was ready. His ship was ready. Humanity was ready. "All ships, this is Liberty," he said into his communicator. "Drop the disguise. Let's show them who we really are." Admiral Vextar Zool raised his hand high above his head on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. Around him, his crew waited for the order to attack. The human ships floated helplessly in space, completely surrounded by Zarathian warships. "All ships, prepare to fire," the Admiral commanded. "Target their engines first. I want them disabled, not destroyed. We can learn more from intact ships." Commander Kurth Newell felt his uneasiness growing stronger. Something was wrong. The humans were too calm, too confident. But it was too late to voice his concerns now. "Fire." Admiral Zool brought his hand down sharply. 20-7 Zarathian warships opened fire at once. Plasma beams and quantum torpedoes streaked through space toward the 5 human vessels. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small fleet of regular warships. The aliens expected to see the human ships explode, or at least lose power. Immediately, instead, something impossible happened. The moment the Zarathian weapons fired, the 5 human ships changed completely. Epoxy, ugly hulls flickered and disappeared like mirages. In their place appeared sleek, angular warships with smooth metal surfaces that seemed to absorb light. The ships were larger than they had appeared, and their hulls bristled with weapon ports and sensor arrays. "What in the void, ... Commander Kurth whispered, staring at his tactical display in shock. The incoming Zarathian weapons struck the human ships and simply vanished. Point defense systems had activated so quickly that the alien sensors could barely track them. Hundreds of small energy beams reached out from the human vessels, intercepting every plasma bolt and quantum torpedo with perfect accuracy. On the Liberty, Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh worked calmly at his weapons console. "All incoming fire neutralized. Captain, point defense grid is operating at 98% efficiency. Excellent work, Steve, Captain Morrison replied. He turned to his communications officer. Susan, open channels to all Zarathian ships. I think it's time for a proper introduction. Captain. Morrison's face appeared on screens throughout the Zarathian fleet. He looked calm and confident, not at all like someone whose ship had just been attacked by overwhelming force. Admiral Zoll, I believe there's been a misunderstanding, Captain Morrison said politely. Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force, commanding the 5th Fleet's Reconnaissance Division. On the Zarathian flagship, Admiral Zool stared at the human captain in disbelief. Defense Force? Your ships are exploration vessels. I'm afraid not, Admiral. What you saw before were holographic disguises. We've been using them to observe how your Empire treats first contact situations. The results have been quite educational. Commander, Kurth Null was frantically checking his sensor readings. Admiral, the energy signatures from their ships. They're completely different now. These readings are off the scale. Impossible, Admiral Zoll growled. No species has technology that advanced. You're bluffing, Captain Morrison smiled. I understand your skepticism, Admiral. Perhaps a small demonstration would be helpful. Constitution, if you would. The second human ship, the Constitution, rotated slowly to face 3 Zarathian cruisers. A single weapon port opened on its hull, and a thin beam of blue light shot out. The beam touched each of the 3 alien ships for just a moment. Immediately, all 3 Zarathian cruisers went dark. Their engines stopped, their weapons powered down, and their lights went out. They were completely disabled, but undamaged. What did you do to them? Admiral Zoll demanded. Captain Ben Hayes answered from the Constitution. Particle beam disruption, Admiral. We temporarily overloaded their main power systems. The crews are unharmed, and the ships can be repaired easily. We could have destroyed them instead, but we prefer not to kill unless absolutely necessary. Admiral Zoll looked around his bridge at his shocked crew. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen weapons that could disable ships so cleanly and precisely. This is some kind of trick, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. No trick, Admiral, Captain Morrison replied. Just technology you haven't encountered before. Yorktown, would you care to show them the nanic warheads? The 3rd human ship, the Yorktown, launched 5 small projectiles toward different parts of the Zarathian fleet. The projectiles moved slowly, almost casually, giving the alien ships plenty of time to shoot them down. But when the Zarathians fired at them, their weapons simply passed through the projectiles, as if they weren't their dot. Each nanite warhead reached a different Zarathian ship and exploded in a shower of tiny sparkles. The sparkles spread across the alien hulls like glitter. What are those things? Commander Kurth asked nervously. Captain Amy Foster answered from the Yorktown. Nanoscale robots, Commander. They're currently mapping your shield generators and finding the most efficient way to shut them down. Don't worry, they won't hurt your crews. As she spoke, the shields around 5 more Zarathian ships flickered and died. The nanites had found the shield generators and simply turned them off. Admiral Zool was beginning to understand that his fleet was in serious trouble. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports said humans were a primitive species. Your intelligence was deliberately fed false information, Dr. Helen Martinez said, appearing on the screen next to Captain Morrison. We've been monitoring your Empire's communications for over a century, Admiral. We know about your conquest of the Eltarians, the enslavement of the Centauri colonies, and the destruction of the vegan homeworld. You've been spying on us? Admiral Zool's voice rose in anger. We've been watching you, Captain Morrison corrected. Humanity learned long ago that knowledge is the best defense. We knew that eventually our expansion into space would bring Use into contact with your Empire. We wanted to be ready. Captain Ryan Cooper of the Intrepid spoke up. Admiral, if I may demonstrate our gravity manipulation technology, I promise it won't damage your ships. Before Admiral Zal could respond, the space around 5 Zarathian ships began to shimmer. The ships were pulled out of their formation by invisible forces, moving slowly but irresistibly toward the center of the human fleet. "Stop this," Admiral Zal commanded. "The ships are perfectly safe," Captain Cooper assured him. "We're just showing you that we can move your vessels wherever we want them. The crews inside are experiencing normal gravity. They're not being harmed." The pulled ships came to a gentle stop, now positioned between the human vessels and the rest of the Zarathian fleet. Admiral Zal realized that his own ships were now acting as shields, protecting the humans from his remaining forces. "This is impossible," he whispered. Captain Nina Torres of the Defiance laughed softly. "You haven't seen anything yet, Admiral. Watch this." The Defiance seemed to flicker and then vanished completely from all sensors. For a moment, there was no trace of the ship anywhere. Then it reappeared directly behind the Eternal Dominion, so close that its hull almost touched the Zarathian. "Flagship, temporal displacement field," Captain Torres explained cheerfully. "We stepped outside normal space-time for a few seconds. Very handy for getting around enemy fleets." Admiral Zul spun around to stare at the human warship that had somehow appeared behind him. His crew was in a state of panic, unsure how to respond to weapons and technologies they had never imagined. "Admiral," Captain Morrison said gently, "I think it's time we had a serious conversation about the future of this region of space. Your empire has been the dominant power here for a long time, but that's about to change. Are you threatening us?" Admiral Zul asked, though his voice had lost much of its earlier confidence. "Not threatening, Admiral. Informing. Humanity's now a galactic power, whether we want it to be or not. The question is whether we're going to be enemies or whether we can find a way to coexist peacefully." Commander Kurth Null leaned close to his admiral and whispered urgently, "Sir, recommend we consider their offer. We've lost half our fleet's combat effectiveness, and they've barely tried. If they wanted to destroy us, we'd already be dead." "Admiral." Zell looked around at his disabled ships, his confused crew, and the 5 human vessels that had revealed themselves to be far more than they appeared. For the first time in his military career, he was completely outmatched. "What do you want from you?" he asked quietly. Captain Morrison's expression became serious. "We want you to stop, Admiral. Stop the conquests, stop the slavery, stop the destruction. It's time for a new way of doing things in this part of the galaxy. And if we refuse?" The 5 human captains looked at each other across their communication screens. Finally, Captain Morrison spoke. "Then we'll have to be more persuasive, Admiral. And trust me, you don't want to see what happens when humanity stops being polite." Admiral Vextar Zul stared at the tactical display on his bridge. Half of his mighty fleet was disabled or out of position. The 5 human ships sat calmly in the center of his formation, completely untouchable. His pride as a Zarathian commander warred with his growing fear of these strange beings. "Admiral," Commander Kurth Null said quietly, "perhaps we should listen to what they have to say. Listen?" Admiral Zull's voice was sharp with anger. "We are the Zarathian Empire. We do not listen to demands from primitive species." Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system, calm and patient. "Admiral, I understand this is difficult for you. Your empire has been the strongest power in this region for generations. But times change, and you need to change with them. You dare lecture me?" Admiral Zal stepped closer to the main screen. "You may have strange weapons, but you are still only 5 ships. The Empire has thousands of warships across 3-star systems. Actually, Admiral, we need to discuss that, Captain Morrison replied. Susan, please show the Admiral what we've learned about his empire. Communications Officer Lieutenant Susan Clark transmitted a detailed holographic display that appeared in the center of the Zarathian bridge. Admiral Zool and his crew watched in shock as their entire empire was laid out before them in perfect detail. The display showed every Zarathian world, every military base, every shipyard, and every resource extraction facility. It included precise locations of all Imperial fleets, their ship counts, and their current missions. Even the personal quarters of high-ranking officials were marked on the map. "This is impossible," Admiral Zoll whispered. "Our security is absolute. No outsider could gather this information. Your security was designed to keep out species with technology similar to your own," Dr. Helen Martinez explained. "Human intelligence. Gathering operates on entirely different principles. We've been monitoring your empire for over 100 years, Admiral. We know things about your government that some of your own officials don't know." Commander Karth Null studied the display with growing horror. "Admiral, look at Section 7. That shows the location of the Emperor's private retreat. That information is known only to the Imperial Guard. We also know about the rebellion brewing in the Altarian system," Captain Morrison added. "The one your government thinks it has contained. We've been in contact with the resistance leaders for several years now." Admiral Zool felt his world shifting beneath his feet. Everything he had believed about Zarathian superiority was crumbling. "What do you want?" he asked again, his voice much quieter now. "We want peace, Admiral, but peace on new terms. The age of galactic empires, built on conquest and slavery, is ending. Humanity is here to make sure of that." Captain Ben Hayes of the Constitution leaned forward on his screen. "Admiral, let me show you what happens to empires that refuse to change." The Constitution fired another particle beam, this one much more powerful than the first. It struck a large asteroid floating near the battlefield. The asteroid, which was roughly the size of a city, simply vanished. There was no explosion, no debris field. It was there one moment and gone the next. "Complete molecular disintegration, Captain," Hayes explained matter-of-factly. "We don't usually need to use that level of power, but it's available when necessary." Admiral Zool stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. A cold fear settled in his stomach. Weapons that could erase matter itself were beyond anything in the Zarathian arsenal. "The Yorktown would like to show you our defensive capabilities," Captain Amy Foster said cheerfully. "Don't worry, we won't hurt anyone." The Yorktown launched dozens of small drones that spread out around the battlefield. Each drone projected a shimmering energy field that connected with the others, creating a web of light around both fleets. "Quantum barrier network," Captain Foster explained. "Nothing can get in or out without our permission. Not ships, not weapons, not even radio signals. We could keep your entire fleet trapped here indefinitely if we wanted to." Captain Ryan Cooper of the Intrepid spoke up next. "Admiral, observe your flagship's position carefully." The massive Eternal Dominion began to rotate slowly, despite the fact that its engines were not firing. The ship's crew felt nothing unusual, but outside observers could see the enormous vessel turning like a child's toy. "Gravity manipulation." "On a macro scale," Captain Cooper said, "we can move planets if necessary, Admiral. Moving your ships is quite simple by comparison." "Stop," Admiral Zoll said weakly. "I understand. You could destroy us all." "We could," Captain Morrison agreed. "But we don't want to. Destruction is wasteful and unnecessary. We prefer conversion." "Conversion?" Captain Nina Torres of the Defiance answered him. "Conversion from empire to civilization, Admiral. From conquerors to citizens of a peaceful galaxy. The Defiance will now demonstrate our temporal capabilities more fully. Captain Torres continued. "Watch your sensor readings carefully." The Defiance vanished again, but this time it stayed gone for several minutes. During that time, the human ship appeared briefly at various locations throughout the star system. It was seen near the system's outer planets, close to the star itself, and at several points between. "We stepped outside linear time," Captain Torres explained when the ship finally reappeared in its original position. "From our perspective, we spent several hours exploring your entire star system. For you, it was only a few minutes. We could have visited every world in your empire and returned before you finished this conversation." Admiral Zal sat down heavily. In his command chair, his empire's technology seemed primitive compared to what these humans possessed. "How?" he asked simply. "How did we develop such advanced technology?" Captain Morrison considered the question. "Through cooperation, Admiral. While your empire was busy conquering and enslaving other species, humanity was learning from them. We made friends instead of enemies. We shared knowledge instead of stealing it. We built alliances instead of building prisons." Dr. Martinez pulled up another display. "Admiral, let me show you something interesting. This is a list of the species your empire has conquered or enslaved over the past 3 centuries. Names and pictures appeared on the screen. Dozens of different alien races, all showing signs of oppression and suffering under Zarathian rule. Now, let me show you the same species today." Dr. Martinez continued. The display changed to show the same races, but they looked completely different. They were healthy, prosperous, and obviously free. Many were working together on advanced technological projects. "Every species your empire has oppressed is now a member of the Galactic Cooperative," Dr. Martinez explained. "They've been working with humanity to develop the technologies you've just witnessed. The weapon systems, the defensive grids, the temporal manipulation devices. All of these were created through cooperative research." "Impossible," Admiral Zal said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Quite possible, Admiral," Captain Morrison replied. "When people work together instead of against each other, amazing things happen. Your empire could be part of this cooperation instead of its enemy." Commander Kurth Null looked at his admiral with pleading eyes. "Sir, perhaps we should consider their offer. Our current path leads only to destruction." Admiral Zal was quiet for a long moment, thinking about everything he had seen and heard. His empire, which had seemed so powerful just an hour ago, was revealed to be weak and backward compared to this human-led alliance. "What would happen to us?" he asked finally. "To our people, our worlds, our way of life?" "Your people would be free to live as they choose," Captain Morrison answered. "Your worlds would remain yours, but without the need to exploit others. Your way of life would change, but for the better. Instead of being conquerors, you could be explorers, scientists, artists, whatever you choose to be. And if some of our people refuse to accept these changes?" Captain Morrison's expression became serious. "Then they'll discover that humanity can be much less pleasant when we're not being diplomatic, Admiral. We've shown you our advanced technology. What we haven't shown you is our capacity for warfare when peaceful solutions fail." Admiral Zoll looked around his bridge at his frightened crew, then at his disabled fleet, then at the 5 human ships that had revealed themselves to be far more. Then they appeared. "I need to speak with my government," he said finally. "Of course, Admiral," Captain Morrison replied. "But I should mention that we've already been in contact with several members of your Imperial Council. Some of them are quite interested in our proposals for peaceful cooperation." Admiral Zul's eyes widened. These humans had infiltrated even the highest levels of his government. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. Captain Morrison smiled. "Admiral, humanity doesn't just plan for first contact. We plan for what comes after first contact, and what comes after that, And what comes after that? We think ahead. Very far ahead, added Captain Torres with a grin. For the first time in his life, Admiral Vextar Zol began to understand that his empire was not the most powerful force in the galaxy. Not anymore. Admiral Vextar Zul stood on his bridge, looking out at the 5 human ships that had changed everything. His proud fleet was scattered and disabled. His empire's secrets had been laid bare. His entire understanding of galactic power had been shattered in less than 2 hours. Admiral, Commander Kurth Null said quietly, "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Imperial capital." "Put it through," Admiral Zul said wearily. The image that appeared on his screen shocked him. High Counselor Rexani Var, second. Only to the Emperor himself, looked tired and worried. Behind him, Admiral Zul could see other council members arguing in the background. "Admiral Zul," the High Counselor said, "we have been contacted by human representatives. They claim to have demonstrated their capabilities to your fleet. Is this true?" Admiral Zul looked at his disabled ships floating helplessly in space. "It is true, High Counselor. Their technology is far beyond anything we possess. They have weapons that can disable our ships without damaging them, defenses that can stop our most powerful attacks, and intelligence networks that know more about our empire than we do." High Counselor Rexani was quiet for a moment. "The humans have offered us terms for peaceful coexistence. The Council is divided on how to respond." "What are the terms?" Admiral Zal asked. "Complete cessation of all conquest activities. Freedom for all enslaved populations. Transformation of our military from a conquest force to a defensive one. In exchange, they offer membership in something called the Galactic Cooperative and access to their advanced technologies." Admiral Zal considered this. "High Counselor, I recommend acceptance. We cannot defeat these humans in battle. Their capabilities are simply too advanced. Some council members believe we should fight," the High Counselor said. "They think humanity is bluffing about their true strength." Captain Morrison's voice cut into the conversation. "High Counselor, if I may interrupt, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human fleet. We are not bluffing about anything." The High Counselor looked startled. "How are you intercepting our secure communications?" "The same way we've been monitoring your empire for over a century," Captain Morrison replied calmly. "Your communication security is not as secure as you believe it to be." Dr. Helen Martinez appeared on the screen next to Captain Morrison. "High Counselor, we understand that this is a difficult decision for your government. Change is never easy, especially for a civilization that has been successful using old methods. But the galaxy is evolving, and your empire must evolve with it or be left behind. What guarantee do we have that you won't simply conquer us once we've dismantled our military?" The High Counselor asked. Captain Ben Hayes answered from the Constitution. "High Counselor, if we wanted to conquer your empire, we could have done it already. We've had detailed intelligence on all your worlds and defenses for decades. Conquest was never our goal." "Then what is your goal?" Admiral Zul asked. Captain Amy Foster smiled from the Yorktown. "Peace, Admiral. Real peace, not the temporary quiet that comes from fear and oppression. We want a galaxy where different species can work together, learn from each other, and explore the universe as friends instead of enemies." High Counselor Rexani looked thoughtful. "And you believe this is possible?" Captain Ryan Cooper of the Intrepid nodded. "It's not just possible, High Counselor. It's already happening. 47 different species are already members of the Galactic Cooperative. They've been working together for over 50 years to build a better future." 47 species? Admiral Zal was amazed. "We knew of only 12 intelligent races in this region of space." Captain Nina Torres laughed from the Defiance. "Admiral, there are over 200 intelligent species in just this galaxy alone. Your empire has been operating in a very small part of a very large universe. The implications of this statement hit Admiral Zal like a physical blow. The Jarathian Empire, which he had thought controlled a significant portion of the galaxy, was actually just a minor power in a tiny corner of space. We have been limited in our perspective, Admiral Zal admitted quietly. That's not unusual, Captain Morrison said kindly. Most species go through a phase where they think they're the most important civilization in the universe. It's a natural part of development. The question is whether you're ready to grow beyond that phase. High Counselor Rexani was quiet for several minutes, clearly thinking deeply about the situation. Finally, he spoke. What would be the first step if we decided to accept your terms? Dr. Martinez pulled up a document on her screen. We've prepared something we call the Kepler Accords, named after this star system where we're meeting. It's a framework for your empire's transition from conquest to cooperation. The first step would be an immediate ceasefire on all military operations, Captain Morrison explained. No more attacks on other worlds. No more expansion activities. No more enslavement of prisoners. The second step would be the beginning of freedom processes for all enslaved populations, Dr. Martinez continued. We understand this will take time and careful planning. We're prepared to help with the logistics. The third step would be the establishment of diplomatic relations between your empire and the Galactic Cooperative, Captain Foster added. Cultural exchange, trade agreements, joint research projects. Admiral Zal found himself nodding as he listened. After seeing what humanity was capable of, the idea of joining their alliance seemed much more attractive than fighting them. High Counselor, he said, I strongly recommend that we accept these terms. Fighting humanity would be suicide for our empire, even if we gathered all our fleets from across all three systems. The High Counselor asked. Captain Torres answered that question. High Counselor, the 5 ships you see here represent a tiny fraction of the Cooperative's defensive capabilities. If you gathered every ship in your empire, you would still be vastly outnumbered and outgunned. But more importantly, Captain, Morrison added, you would be fighting alone. Every species your empire has oppressed would be fighting against you alongside humanity. Every enemy you've made would see this as their chance for revenge. Commander Kurth Null leaned close to Admiral Zal and whispered, Sir, we have made many enemies over the centuries. A war against humanity would bring all of them down on us at once. Admiral Zal nodded grimly. High Counselor, the military situation is hopeless. We must seek peace. High Counselor Rexani was quiet for another long moment. Then he straightened his shoulders and made his decision. Admiral Zal, you are authorized to begin negotiations with the human representatives. The Imperial Council accepts the principle of peaceful coexistence. Captain Morrison smiled warmly. High Counselor, Admiral, that's wonderful news. Dr. Martinez will work with your representatives to draft the specific terms of the accords. One question, Captain, Admiral Zal said. Why did you reveal your true capabilities to us? You could have continued the deception and gathered even more intelligence. Captain Morrison considered the question carefully. Because, Admiral, true peace cannot be built on deception. For our alliance to work, it has to be based on honesty and mutual respect. We wanted you to understand exactly what humanity is capable of, so you could make an informed decision about our future relationship. And, Captain Torres added with a grin, because it was fun to see the look on your face when we dropped the disguise. Despite everything, Admiral Zal found himself chuckling. These humans had a sense of humor, even in the middle of diplomatic negotiations. Over the next several hours, Dr. Martinez worked with Zarathian representatives to draft the Kepler Accords. The document outlined a gradual transition process that would transform the empire from a military dictatorship to a member of the galactic community. As the negotiations concluded, Admiral Zoll found himself curious about something. Captain Morrison, you said this demonstration represents your most basic defensive systems. What are your more advanced capabilities like? Captain Morrison's smile became slightly mysterious. Admiral, let's just say that what you've seen today is what we show to species we want to become friends with. What we keep hidden is reserved for species that refuse to be reasonable. The galaxy is a big place, Captain Hayes added, and humanity has had a long time to prepare for all the different kinds of neighbors we might encounter. Admiral Zoll nodded thoughtfully. He was beginning to understand that humanity was far more than they appeared to be. These 5 ships had effortlessly defeated his entire fleet, but they were just the tip of a very large iceberg. Admiral, Captain Morrison said as the negotiations drew to a close, there's one more thing I want you to understand. This isn't the end of Zarathian greatness. It's the beginning of a new kind of greatness. Your people have the opportunity to become explorers, scientists, artists, builders. Instead of being remembered as conquerors, you can be remembered as creators. The universe is vast and full of wonders, Dr. Martinez added. Working together, our species can discover things that neither of us could find alone. As the Zarathian fleet began the process of repair and reorganization under the new accords, Admiral Zoll stood on his bridge and looked out at the 5 human ships. They no longer seemed threatening. Instead, they looked like what they really were, the beginning of a new era. Commander Kurth, he said to his second-in-command, prepare a message to all Zarathian fleets.
Admiral Susan Carter stood at the viewport of the Earth Defense Station Alpha, her eyes fixed on the massive alien vessel that had appeared without warning at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. The ship defied understanding. It seemed to bend light around its hull, making it difficult to focus on directly. Its size dwarfed anything humans had ever built, stretching nearly 20 kilometers from end to end. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Greg Miller, his voice steady despite the tension in the command center. Susan nodded once, put it on the main screen. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Its form shifted constantly, like smoke given partial substance, contained within what appeared to be a sophisticated environment suit. When it spoke, its voice was unnaturally smooth, almost musical, yet devoid of emotion. "People of Earth, I am the voice of unity, emissary of the galactic hegemony. Our empire spans 10,000 worlds across this galaxy. We have watched your development and determined that your species is now ready for integration. You will surrender your planet and submit to hegemony rule. You have 3 Earth days to comply. Resistance is not recommended." The screen went dark. Susan felt the weight of 1,000 eyes upon her. The command center had fallen completely silent. "Get me the president," she said finally. In the Oval Office, President Jack Reeves watched the recording of the alien message for the 3rd time. His security advisors sat in grim silence around him. "What are our options?" he asked when the recording ended. General Frank Peterson of the Joint Chiefs cleared his throat. "Mr. President, we've analyzed their vessel as best we can. Its technology is centuries beyond ours. Our most powerful weapons would likely have no effect." "So you're suggesting surrender?" Reeves asked, his voice sharp. "I'm suggesting we need to buy time," Peterson replied, "while we look for options." A knock at the door interrupted them. The president's aide entered, looking pale. "Sir, there's a Dr. Alex Mitchell here. He says it's urgent, about the alien ship." Reeves nodded. "Send him in." Dr. Mitchell was a man in his early 40s with disheveled brown hair and intense eyes. He carried a battered laptop and wore a rumpled lab coat. His security badge identified him as the lead scientist of the Quantum Defense Initiative. "Mr. President, I believe I know what we're dealing with. And more importantly, I think I know how we can respond." Reeves gestured to an empty chair. "We're listening, Doctor." Alex opened his laptop. For the past 5 years, my team has been studying anomalies in Earth's magnetic field. We believed they were natural phenomena, but after seeing the alien vessel, I re-examined our data. He turned the screen to show a series of graphs and images. These disturbances aren't random. They're signals, or more accurately, they're responses to signals. What kind of signals? Susan asked, leaning forward. That's the thing, Alex said. They're coming from deep space, from the same direction this alien ship arrived from. They've been coming for years, perhaps centuries, and something on Earth has been answering. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a research submarine hovering over the Mariana Trench, Dr. Cynthia Warren watched in amazement as her instruments detected a surge of energy from the ocean floor. Are you seeing this? She asked her research partner, Dr. Ben Foster. Ben nodded, his eyes wide. It started right after that alien broadcast went worldwide. Whatever's down there, it's waking up. Cynthia adjusted the sonar display. This isn't a natural formation. These are structures, massive ones buried under millions of years of sediment. As they watched, a pattern of lights began to glow beneath the ocean floor, tracing geometric shapes that spread for miles. In his underground lab at the Quantum Defense Initiative, Alex showed Susan and the President's Chief of Staff, Linda Powell, what he had discovered. These energy signatures are appearing all over the world, he said, pointing to a global map. The Mariana Trench, Antarctica, the Sahara, the Amazon rainforest, they all activated after the alien message. What are they? Linda asked. I believe they're pieces of a planetary defense system, Alex replied, left here by someone else long before humans evolved. Susan frowned. You're saying Earth was, what? Colonized before? Not just colonized, Alex said. Fortified. These systems aren't random. They're placed at strategic points around the planet, and they're beginning to link up, forming a network. A young researcher burst into the lab. Dr. Mitchell, the Antarctic site, it's revealing something. Alex pulled up the live feed from the research station at the South Pole. A team of scientists stood at the edge of a massive hole in the ice that hadn't been there hours before. As they watched, something rose from the depths, a metallic spire, covered in symbols no human had ever seen. It's happening everywhere, Alex said quietly. Whatever was hidden here is revealing itself. Commander Olivia Hayes of the Earth battlecruiser Guardian received new orders with a mixture of dread and determination. Her ship, the most advanced in Earth's small space fleet, was to approach the alien vessel under a flag of truce. We need to buy time, Admiral Carter had told her. Keep them talking while we figure out what these ancient systems are and how to use them. As the Guardian moved slowly toward the massive alien ship, Olivia addressed her crew. I won't lie to you, we're outmatched in every way, but humanity has faced long odds before. Our mission is simple, diplomatic contact while Earth prepares. Every minute we keep them talking is another minute for our people to find an answer. Her second in command, Lieutenant Paul Rodriguez, stood beside her on the bridge. Do you think there is an answer, Commander? Olivia watched as the alien vessel grew larger in their view screen. There has to be, Lieutenant. Otherwise, why would something leave planetary defenses on a world of primitive apes? The Voice of Unity agreed to meet with Earth's representatives, aboard a neutral platform, a small space station positioned between the two vessels. President Reeves had wanted to go himself, but his advisors had forbidden it. Instead, he watched from the White House Situation Room as Olivia Hayes and 2 diplomats entered the meeting chamber. The Voice of Unity waited for them, its containment suit gleaming under the station's lights. Your gesture is appreciated, but unnecessary, it said when they entered. Surrender is inevitable. 10,000 worlds have joined our hegemony, some willingly, others after brief resistance. All are now part of the greater whole. We came to understand, Olivia replied carefully. Earth has never encountered other civilizations before. This is all new to us. Your ignorance is expected, the voice said. Allow me to educate you. The hegemony brings order to chaos. We end conflict. We preserve knowledge. We advance civilization. Those who join us prosper. Those who resist are removed. On Earth, Alex Mitchell worked frantically to understand the ancient technology now activating around the planet. With each passing hour, More systems came online, more structures revealed themselves. And deep beneath the Mariana Trench, something ancient stirred from a sleep that had lasted millions of years, something left to protect a world that would one day face the stars and need to deliver a warning. Cynthia Warren guided the small submarine deeper into the Mariana Trench. The normal darkness of the deep ocean was now broken by strange blue lights that pulsed along what looked like massive metal walls. These structures had been hidden under the ocean floor until a few hours ago. Now they rose up like the ruins of an ancient city, except everything looked new, as if they had been built yesterday. "We're picking up an energy signature," Ben Foster said from the pilot's seat. "It's coming from that central structure." The submarine's lights illuminated a building that resembled a pyramid. Its surface was covered with symbols that glowed when the light touched them. "We need to get inside," Cynthia said. She checked the oxygen levels in her diving suit. "I'm going out there." Ben grabbed her arm. "That's crazy. We don't know what this is or if it's safe." "What we do know is that alien ship is going to attack in less than 2 days if we don't find a way to defend ourselves," Cynthia replied. "Something left these structures here. I think they were meant to help us." 20 minutes later, Cynthia floated outside the pyramid. Its surface looked like metal but felt warm to the touch, despite the freezing temperatures of the deep ocean. When she placed her gloved hand on one of the glowing symbols, the wall before her simply disappeared, revealing an entrance. Inside, she found a large round room with a pedestal in the center. On top of the pedestal was a sphere that glowed with the same blue light as the symbols outside. When Cynthia approached it, the sphere rose into the air and hovered at eye level. A voice spoke directly into her mind. "Genetic profile recognized. Human. Secondary guardian species. Emergency protocols activated." In the White House Situation Room, President Reeves listened as reports came in from around the world. Similar structures had been discovered in the Amazon rainforest, beneath the sands of the Sahara Desert, and under the ice of Antarctica. Each site had activated after the alien ultimatum. "Mr. President," Admiral Carter said over the video link, "we've lost contact with Dr. Warren's team in the Mariana Trench. Their last transmission indicated they found an entrance to one of these structures." Alex Mitchell burst into the room, his laptop open. "Sir, you need to see this. We've detected a massive energy buildup at all 4 sites. They're connecting, forming some kind of network." Before the president could respond, every screen in the room suddenly went blank. Then they all showed the same image, a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. A single point of light pulsed at the edge of one spiral arm. "That's us," Alex whispered. "That's Earth." The map zoomed out, showing thousands of worlds highlighted in a soft purple color. These planets formed a pattern, like a net cast across the galaxy. "I believe those are hegemony worlds," Alex said. Then new points appeared on the map, shown in deep red. They were fewer in number but formed distinct clusters at the edges of the galaxy. As they watched, these red zones slowly expanded. "What are we looking at?" President Reeves asked. "I think," Alex said slowly, "we're being shown a warning." "Commander," Olivia Hayes stood firm as the voice of Unity circled around her on the neutral station. The alien emissary's containment suit seemed to shimmer, revealing glimpses of the swirling energy form inside. "Your planet has entered its final hours of freedom," the voice said. "Will you be reasonable and accept the inevitable? The hegemony can be generous to those who join willingly." "We came to understand your intentions better," Olivia replied. "You say you've conquered 10,000 worlds. What happens to those who refuse to surrender?" The voice made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Some become empty worlds, ready for new inhabitants. Others become cautionary examples, but most see reason when faced with our power." "And what about the red zones?" Olivia asked. The voice went still. "What did you say?" "The red zones at the edges of the galaxy, the areas your empire avoids, for..." The first time the voice seemed unsettled. "How do you know of this? Your species has not left its solar system." A message flashed on Olivia's communicator. It was from Earth. "Ancient defense system activated. Keep them talking." Cynthia Warren no longer felt alone in the underwater chamber. The blue sphere continued to hover before her, but now she sensed a presence, as if someone else stood beside her. "You are not the builders," the voice in her mind said, "but you are the designated guardians. The progenitors chose this world for its isolation, for its place at the edge of the quarantine zone." Images flashed through Cynthia's mind, beings of light and energy, not unlike the voice of unity, but somehow more solid, more real. They moved among the stars, building great wonders. Then came darkness, a wave of nothing that consumed everything in its path. "The progenitors fought the void for 10,000 years, the voice continued. When they could not destroy it, they contained it, creating the quarantine zones. Your world was made a fortress, the final line of defense, the warning system." Cynthia struggled to understand. Warning against what? Against those who would break the barriers. The hegemony does not know what it awakens with its expansion. Its energy technologies weaken the walls between realities. The void stirs in its prison. On the space station, the voice of Unity's form seemed to flicker inside its containment suit. "Your questions are irrelevant. The red zones are forbidden territories, navigational hazards, nothing more." Olivia received another message. "Stall. Them. Defense system charging. 30 minutes. "If they're just navigational hazards," Olivia pressed, "why does the hegemony fleet always travel along specific routes? Why do your ships never cross certain areas of space?" The voice moved closer. "How does your primitive species know these things?" "Perhaps we're not as primitive as you think," Olivia said. "Perhaps there's a reason our world was left alone until now." In the Antarctic Research Station, scientists watched in awe as the ice spire grew higher, reaching toward the sky. Similar reports came in from the Sahara and the Amazon, massive structures rising from the earth pointing up like ancient fingers of warning. Alex Mitchell's computer showed energy readings growing stronger at all 4 sites. The Mariana Trench structure now pulsed with light visible from space. "They're forming a transmission array," he told President Reeves. "Whatever message these progenitors left behind, it's about to be sent." "Sent where?" the president asked. "Not to the hegemony," Alex said grimly. "Beyond them. I think Earth is about to announce something to the entire galaxy." In orbit, the Guardian received urgent orders to withdraw from the neutral station. As Olivia and her team rushed to their shuttle, the voice of Unity followed. "What is happening? On your world?" it demanded. "What have you activated?" Olivia turned at the shuttle door. "We didn't activate anything. Your ultimatum did. Earth doesn't surrender. Earth warns." In the depths of the Mariana Trench, Cynthia watched as the blue sphere rose higher in the chamber, its light growing blinding. The voice in her mind spoke one last time. "The warning is prepared. The barriers thin. The void hungers. And the hegemony must be shown." The shuttle carrying Commander Olivia Hayes and her team raced back toward the Guardian. Behind them, the neutral station shimmered as the voice of Unity sent urgent messages to the hegemony fleet. "They're moving," Lieutenant Paul Rodriguez said, checking the sensors. "Multiple ships breaking formation. I think they're preparing to attack." Olivia looked out the viewport at Earth below them, a blue and white jewel against the blackness of space. The 4 sites, Mariana Trench, Antarctica, Sahara, and Amazon, now glowed with blue light visible even from orbit. "Can we make it back to the Guardian before they intercept us?" she asked. Paul shook his head. "Not likely. Their ships are faster." Olivia took a deep breath. "All power to engines. We need to reach our ship." The shuttle lurched forward as its engines strained at maximum capacity. Behind them, 3 smaller hegemony vessels broke away from the main fleet, moving to intercept. On the main hegemony ship, the Supreme Overseer received the urgent transmission from the voice of Unity. The Supreme Overseer was ancient even by hegemony standards. It had overseen the conquest of 1,000 worlds and never once felt fear. But the voice's message sent a chill through its being. "The humans know of the red zones," the voice reported. "They have activated structures left by the ancient ones. I believe they intend to send a signal beyond the barriers." The Supreme Overseer made an immediate decision. Destroy their world. Now. In the underwater structure, Cynthia Warren watched as the blue sphere pulsed with increasing energy. The chamber around her had changed, revealing new rooms and passages that hadn't been visible before. On the walls, images appeared, the history of the progenitors and their war against the void. The voice in her mind explained, "The void is not alive as you understand life. It is the absence of reality itself. Where it touches, things cease to exist, not destroyed, but unmade. The progenitors could not defeat it, only contain it behind walls of energy and altered space." "And the hegemony is breaking these walls?" Cynthia asked. "Not intentionally. Their technology creates ripples in space-time. These ripples weaken the barriers. They do not know what they are doing." A new image appeared on the wall, a map of the barriers around the galaxy, showing weak points where the void was pressing against reality. Many of these points corresponded with hegemony worlds. "Why Earth?" Cynthia asked. "Why make us the warning system? Your world was chosen for its isolation, and because your species showed potential. The progenitors saw in your distant ancestors the capacity to understand and act when the time came. They could not stay to fight the final battle, but they could prepare others." The sphere pulsed faster. "The warning system is almost ready, but it requires something more. A living mind to direct it, to make the final choice." On the Guardian, Admiral Susan Carter watched with growing concern as the hegemony fleet shifted formation. "They're preparing to attack," she told President Reeves over the secure channel. "Our shuttle is still trying to return from the neutral station." "Can we protect them?" the President asked. "The Guardian can intercept, but it would mean certain destruction against their weapons." The President looked grim. "Dr. Mitchell reports that the ancient defense system is almost fully charged. We need to buy more time." Susan made her decision. "Guardian will intercept. We'll give Commander Hayes and her team a chance to return." The Earth battlecruiser moved into position between the approaching hegemony vessels and the shuttle. Though the most advanced ship humans had built, it was tiny compared to the alien craft. The first energy blast from the lead hegemony ship struck the Guardian's shields, causing them to flare bright blue before failing completely. The second blast tore through the hull. At the Antarctic site, Alex Mitchell worked frantically to understand the data flowing through his computer. The ancient system was sending him information faster than he could process it. "It's a key," he suddenly realized. "The system needs a key to fully activate, a human consciousness to direct it." His phone rang. It was President Reeves. "The hegemony fleet is moving to attack position. The Guardian has been hit defending our shuttle. We're out of time, Doctor." Alex looked at the streams of data on his screen. "Sir, I think I know what we need to do." "The system needs a human to guide it, to make the final choice." "What choice?" the President asked. "Whether to just warn the galaxy or to do something more," Alex replied. "I need to get to one of the installation sites immediately." In orbit, the Guardian drifted, its hull breached in multiple places. Most of the crew had made it to escape pods, but Admiral Carter remained on the bridge with a skeleton crew. "Shuttle is clear," reported one of the surviving officers. "They'll reach Earth atmosphere in 3 minutes." Susan nodded. "Send one final message to the fleet. Earth does not surrender. Earth warns." The hegemony ships ignored the crippled Earth vessel, moving past it toward the planet below. Their weapons charged, preparing to reduce the surface to molten slag. Then the sights on Earth pulsed with blinding light. Cynthia placed her hand on the blue sphere, as instructed by the voice in her mind. Instantly, she felt connected to the entire network: Antarctica, Sahara, Amazon, and countless smaller nodes around the planet. She could sense Alex Mitchell rushing toward the Antarctic site and President Reeves watching from the White House bunker. But more than that, she could feel something vast and ancient awakening, knowledge and power left dormant for millions of years. "The choice is yours," the voice said. "You can warn the galaxy of the danger, or you can do more." "What more?" Cynthia asked. "You can. Activate the full defense system. It will stop the hegemony attack, but it will also reveal Earth's true nature to all who watch. There will be no going back. Through her connection with the system, Cynthia could see the hegemony ships preparing to fire on Earth. She could feel the fear of billions of humans who had been told of the alien ultimatum. She made her choice. The blue sphere flared with blinding light. The energy network connecting all 4 major sites pulsed once, twice, then released a wave of energy that spread outward from Earth in all directions. The approaching hegemony weapons suddenly went dark. Their ships froze in space as if caught in invisible amber. And around Earth a shield of energy formed, not just a defensive barrier, but a message written in the language of physics itself, readable by any species with sufficient technology. The A message said, "This world is under the protection of the progenitors. What lies beyond the red zones hungers. Turn back or doom all." In the underwater chamber, Cynthia felt something new. Billions of minds suddenly connected through the ancient network. Every human on Earth experiencing the same revelation at once, the true history of their world and the danger that lurked beyond the stars. Earth had delivered its warning. The Supreme Overseer of the Hegemony Fleet watched in stunned silence as its mighty warships hung powerless in space. Nothing like this had happened in the 50,000 years of hegemony expansion. Their weapons, capable of reducing planets to ash, were now useless against the blue energy shield surrounding Earth. "What is this?" it demanded of its science officers. "Unknown technology," one replied, its voice trembling. "The energy signature matches nothing in our records." "That's not entirely true," said another voice. An elder member of the Hegemony Council stepped forward on the bridge, its containment suit darker and more ornate than the others. This was the Keeper of Histories, rarely seen outside the Hegemony homeworld. "Explain," the Supreme Overseer commanded. "In our oldest records, there are stories of the Ancient Ones, the beings who came before us. They fought a war against something from beyond the galaxy. The red zones we avoid, they are quarantine areas, created to contain what they could not destroy." The Supreme Overseer's form flickered with agitation. "Why was I not told this?" "It was deemed unnecessary knowledge. A myth, nothing more," the Keeper replied. "But now I think perhaps not all myths are false." A message suddenly appeared on all screens throughout the Hegemony Fleet. It displayed in their own language, though. No human could possibly know it. "The barriers weaken. The void stirs. Your expansion threatens all existence. On Earth, billions of humans experience the same vision simultaneously. The history of the progenitors, their desperate war against the void, and their decision to hide Earth as their final safeguard." In the White House bunker, President Reeves gripped his desk as the knowledge flowed through his mind. "They made us their inheritors," he whispered. "All this time we thought we were alone in the universe, but we were being protected, prepared." "Sir," said his Chief of Staff, Linda Powell, her voice shaking, "reports are coming in from around the world. Everyone felt it. Everyone knows." On screens around the bunker, news feeds showed people in streets across the globe looking up at the sky where the blue shield was visible even in daylight, a shimmering dome covering the entire planet. "Get me any survivors from the Guardian," the President ordered, "and find out if Commander Hayes' shuttle made it back safely." In the underwater chamber of the Mariana Trench, Cynthia Warren stood before a new holographic display that had appeared after she activated the defense system. It showed the Hegemony Fleet frozen in space, and beyond them, the red zones at the edges of the galaxy pulsing with dark energy. "The warning has been delivered," the voice in her mind said. "But the void already senses the weakness in the barriers. The hegemony's careless use of energy has created thin spots in reality. Can the barriers be repaired?" Cynthia asked. "Yes, but it requires cooperation. The progenitors could not do it alone, which is why they created this safeguard. Earth was meant to unite the galaxy against the common threat when the time came." Cynthia watched as the display zoomed out, showing hundreds of hegemony worlds. Many were dangerously close to the red zones. "They need to shut down their energy production systems," she realized. All those worlds near the danger areas, they're making things worse without knowing it. Correct. And they must be shown why. Commander, Olivia Hayes' shuttle landed at the main Earth spaceport in Nevada. As she stepped out, she saw the blue shield covering the sky and knew something profound had changed. Commander! A military aide rushed up to her. The President is asking. For you. Admiral Carter's escape pod was recovered, but she's injured. You're now the ranking officer of Earth's Space Forces. Olivia felt the weight of this new responsibility. What about the hegemony fleet? Still frozen in orbit. Our scientists say they're contained in some kind of stasis field. They can't move, but they can communicate. Within an hour, Olivia sat in the White House Situation Room with President Reeves, Dr. Alex Mitchell, and others. Alex had just arrived from Antarctica, where he had interfaced with the site there. The system is giving us access to progenitor technology, Alex explained. Not weapons, but defensive systems, and more importantly, knowledge. The progenitors believed that only through cooperation could the galaxy survive what's coming. And what exactly is coming? Olivia asked. Alex's face grew grim. The void is a kind of anti-reality. It doesn't just destroy, it unmakes. Physics, matter, energy, all the rules that make our universe work simply stop existing when it touches them. The progenitors managed to contain it behind special barriers, but those barriers are weakening. President Reeves looked at the global map showing the 4 major sites still glowing with blue energy. So what do we do now? We need to contact the Supreme Overseer, Alex said. Show them what they're really facing. The hegemony needs to understand this isn't about conquest anymore. It's about survival. On the hegemony flagship, the Supreme Overseer received the request for communication from Earth. Its initial impulse was to refuse. No conquered species had ever dared to make demands of the hegemony, but the Keeper of Histories intervened. We should hear them. These humans have access to progenitor technology that even we do not understand. That alone makes them worthy of attention. Reluctantly, the Supreme Overseer agreed. The image of President Reeves appeared on the main screen. Beside him stood Commander Hayes and Dr. Mitchell. Supreme Overseer of the Hegemony, the President began. We did not choose this role, but it has been given to us. Earth was protected by the progenitors for a reason, to warn the galaxy when the barriers began to fail. Your primitive species claims much, the Supreme Overseer replied. Why should the hegemony listen to humans? Because of this, said Alex Mitchell, stepping forward. He sent a data transmission. The complete records of the progenitors' war against the void, including detailed scans showing the current state of the barriers. The Keeper of Histories examined the data and turned to the Supreme Overseer. It matches our oldest records, and these barrier readings, they show degradation at an alarming rate, particularly near our major energy production worlds. For the first time in its long existence, the Supreme Overseer felt uncertainty. What do you propose, humans? An alliance, President Reeves said simply. Not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals facing extinction. The progenitor technology can repair the barriers, but it requires a coordinated effort across the galaxy. Your empire has the reach we need. And if we refuse? The Supreme Overseer asked. Cynthia Warren's voice came through the communication system from the Mariana Trench site. Then we all die. Look at your worlds closest to the red zones. You've already lost contact with some of them, haven't you? The Supreme Overseer's silence was answer enough. The void is already breaking through, Cynthia continued. We don't have time for conquest or resistance. Earth doesn't surrender to you, and you shouldn't surrender to us. We all need to work together against what's coming. The blue shield around Earth pulsed once, then retracted slightly, enough to free the hegemony ships from stasis, but not enough to leave the planet unprotected. It was both a gesture of good faith and a demonstration of power. Earth was extending a hand, but from a position of strength. The Supreme Overseer considered its options. Then, for the first time in hegemony history, it said, "We will listen." 1 month after Earth activated the ancient progenitor defense system, the planet looked very different. The blue shield remained, though now it allowed selected ships to pass through. Several hegemony vessels orbited alongside the rebuilt Guardian, and 3 new Earthships constructed with progenitor technology. In New York City, the United Nations building had been expanded to include a massive new wing, where representatives from Earth met with delegates from the hegemony. The Supreme Overseer itself had come to Earth, something unheard of in hegemony history. President Reeves stood at the window of his office, looking out at the changed skyline of Washington, D.C. Several sleek hegemony shuttles passed overhead, carrying scientists and diplomats to the coordination center that had been established at the Pentagon. "It's still hard to believe how quickly things changed," he said to Admiral Susan Carter, who sat across from him. Her injuries from the Guardian's destruction had mostly healed, though she still walked with a slight limp. "They didn't have much choice," Susan replied. 3 more of their worlds went silent last week. The void is breaking through faster than anyone predicted. The door opened and Commander Olivia Hayes entered with Dr. Alex Mitchell and Cynthia Warren, who had become Earth's foremost expert on the progenitor technology. "We have news from the Antarctic site," Alex said without preamble. "We've managed to decode more of the progenitor database. It shows the original locations of all their barrier generators across the galaxy." Cynthia placed a small device on the president's desk. It projected a holographic map of the Milky Way, with thousands of points of light scattered throughout. "The blue dots are intact generators," she explained. "The red ones have failed or been damaged. As you can see, nearly 40% of the barrier system is non-functional." "Can they be repaired?" the president asked. "Yes, but we need access to all of them. Many are on hegemony worlds. Others are in unclaimed territories or on planets inhabited by species unknown to either humans or the hegemony." Olivia pointed to several clusters of red dots near the edge of the galaxy. "These are the most critical. The void is already seeping through in these regions. We've convinced the Supreme Overseer to redirect their fleet to these areas to begin repairs." "And Earth's role?" the president asked. "We're the coordination center," Alex said. "The progenitors designed the system to be controlled from here. All the repair efforts need to be synchronized through our 4 main sites." In the Great Assembly Hall of the new United Nations building, the Supreme Overseer addressed delegates from Earth and representatives from various hegemony worlds. Its containment suit had been modified to be more comfortable in Earth's atmosphere, making its swirling energy form more visible. "For 50,000 years, the hegemony brought order to the galaxy," it began. "We believed this was our purpose, to unite all worlds under one rule. We never questioned why certain regions of space were avoided by our ancestors. We never asked why our oldest records warned against expansion beyond certain boundaries." The Supreme Overseer's form flickered with what might have been regret. "Now we know. The progenitors fought a war we had forgotten, against an enemy we cannot comprehend. They created barriers to protect us all, and in our ignorance, we weakened those barriers." It turned to where President Reeves sat with Earth's delegation. Humans were chosen by the progenitors to be the guardians of this knowledge. While the hegemony expanded across the stars, Earth was kept isolated, protected, prepared for this moment. "We came to conquer you, but instead, you have saved us." The assembly hall grew quiet. Then the Supreme Overseer did something unprecedented. It lowered itself in what humans recognized as a bow. "The hegemony does not surrender," it said. "But we do recognize equals when we find them. Earth will have full partnership in the new galactic alliance. Together, we will repair the barriers and face what lies beyond." At the Mariana Trench site, Cynthia Warren worked with hegemony scientists to coordinate the global repair effort. The underwater chamber had expanded, revealing new rooms and technology. In the center, the blue sphere now hovered above a complex control station that linked to all the progenitor sites across the galaxy. "The first repair fleet has reached the Arcturus sector," reported a hegemony technician. "They've reactivated 3 barrier generators already." Cynthia nodded, watching the galactic map where blue lights were slowly replacing red ones. "Good, but we need to move faster. Look at these readings from the Sagittarius arm." The map zoomed in on a cluster of stars near one of the red zones. The barrier there was visibly thinning, with tendrils of darkness seeping through. "What is that?" asked one of the hegemony scientists, pointing to strange distortions appearing in the space around the breach. "The void is changing our physics," Cynthia explained. "Where it touches our reality, things stop making sense. Matter, energy, time, they all break down." She activated the communication system. "This is Earth control to all repair fleets. Priority. Shift to Sagittarius arm. Coordinates 254789. We have an active breach. Aboard the new Earth flagship Defender. Commander Olivia Hayes and Admiral Susan Carter led a joint Earth hegemony fleet toward the breach in the Sagittarius arm. Their ships were equipped with progenitor technology, but even so, the closer they got to the red zone, the more systems began to malfunction. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported Lieutenant Paul Rodriguez from his station. "Whatever's coming through that breach, it's big." Susan turned to the hegemony captain who served as their liaison. "Has the hegemony ever encountered anything like this before?" The captain's containment suit rippled with unease. "Once, 3,000 years ago, we lost an entire fleet. After that, those regions were declared forbidden." Olivia studied the, tactical display. "We're not here to fight it. We can't fight it. We just need to repair the barrier generators and strengthen the walls." Through the viewport they could see it now, a tear in space itself, with something like living darkness moving on the other side. Ships that ventured too close simply vanished, not destroyed but erased as if they had never existed. "All ships maintain safe distance," Olivia ordered. "Deploy the repair drones. Let's seal this breach." On Earth, President Reeves addressed the people of his planet. The speech was broadcast globally and transmitted to colonies that humans had already established on Mars and the Moon. A month ago we were alone, believing ourselves to be the only intelligent life in the universe. Today, we stand as partners, with a galactic civilization, facing a threat greater than any we could have imagined. The progenitors chose Earth for a reason. They saw in our distant ancestors the potential to unite, rather than conquer when the time came. He gestured to the blue shield still visible in the sky. This protection was not given to us to hide behind, but to give us the strength to act when needed. Across the galaxy, humans now work alongside the hegemony to repair the barriers that keep our reality safe from the void. The president paused, looking directly into the camera. "The Galactic Empire demanded our surrender, but Earth answered with a warning. That warning has been heard, and now we move forward, not as conquerors or conquered, but as guardians of existence itself." In space, the first repaired barrier generator activated, pushing back the darkness that threatened to consume everything. A blue wave of energy spread outward, reinforcing reality against the nothing that sought to unmake it. Earth's warning had been delivered. The real work had just begun.